After weeks of greed, the crypto markets have finally felt the full force of fear. Were you fearful on Monday when the market collapsed, only to find it bounce back from that point? Do you have a plan to be getting into altcoins, or do you not know which altcoins to have a look at? Today, let's uncover some of the bottom signals that are forming here on the market yet again, and have a look at some altcoins that are faring reasonably strong in the face of all of this fear that has circled the market over the last 48 hours. You know what to do. Hit the like button, subscribe to your channel of macro cycle analysis covering Bitcoin, crypto, the stock markets, and the real estate cycle. It's me, Jason Pizzino. Thanks again for joining me on the channel, or if you're new to the channel, thanks for stopping by. Hopefully you get a shit ton of value from today's video. I've got a lot planned for you, so stay tuned. All right, you have been liking the wisdom and the quotes when it comes to the market so that we can decipher how we're going to go about playing the markets. And to me, after my analysis today, this is the main one that came to mind. I've heard this many times before. I've talked about it many times before because this is what cost the majority of people the bull market from 2022, late 2022 into 2023. Far more money has been lost by investors preparing for a correction or trying to anticipate corrections than has been lost in corrections themselves. Think back to 2023. Maybe it's a bit too far away for the majority of people, but everyone was looking for the looming recession, the recession that had to collapse the markets. And of course, there was no collapse. There was barely a pullback long enough for you to wipe your own ass. It was basically up for the second half of 2023. And you had a few times where, yeah, you probably did need to wipe your ass, like in March of 2023 when the banking crisis occurred and the banks collapsed. But from that point, everyone was looking for recessions and the market took off from that point. So this one comes to mind in these times of fear in the markets because far more investors lose money anticipating corrections, waiting for corrections, preparing for corrections than in the corrections themselves. And that just means that rather than act on the market conditions as they see them, then they wait for further corrections. And so they've lost all that money to the upside. Peter Lynch, absolute legend of the hedge fund game through the 80s, the biggest returns that anyone got through that period. That's why he's a legend, and that's why I pay attention to him and not others. But anyway, let's move on to what's going on in the markets now, the macro landscape here, looking at the traditional markets before we hit Bitcoin and hit those cryptocurrencies. We've got the angst coming into the summer rally period. So we're in June, July, August. We're ending June, coming into July and August. Obviously, it's summer for the Northern Hemisphere, but winter for us down here. In Australia, the S&P 500 during June, July, August. The chart below shows what typically happens through seasonality for the S&P 500. So I just want to prepare ourselves for this time in the market in case there is a bit of a choppy, churny period while we go through the summer months. What we have noted over many, many videos now is that the second half of the year, more notably the quarter four, you typically see a pretty solid rally. It's either known as like the Halloween effect. After Halloween, you get this move to the upside. Sometimes it's the Christmas rally through November into December as well. And then we also have the election coming up, which typically shows a rally after the election as well. So you've got a lot of reasons to expect a pretty significant rally in quarter four. Is it going to happen? Obviously, that's up to the markets. I'm putting the probabilities here on my side. I'm going to trade the probabilities, and I think there's going to be bigger upside there as well. Maybe it gets front run in quarter three. So pay attention to that as well. We can't ever turn off. I know we're trying to understand what the markets are doing here, but let's just prepare ourselves for what we see in this particular data, SPX during June, July, August. Basically, know that the average performance during these months is a sideways affair. We have reviewed this several times. So the election year seasonal pattern, we're in the election year, a drop off around that quarter three, and then a big run into quarter four. We're currently in this pink line here. We're in June, so we've gone a little bit higher and just had a bit of a correction now towards the end of June. And so July in the seasonal patterns here, so you can see all the lines and what they represent. You got a pullback here in July. Does that marry up with what this is talking about? Well, kind of, yeah, you've got a bit of a pullback here as well, and then basically flat through August before you get on into September, October. So you do have a pullback in several of these other years as well. You can see a pullback in the orangey brown color, a slight pullback through the blue and the black. So that's all election years there. And then you get into August after a bit of a late July move, another pullback. And then for the dark brown line here, or the brown orange, you've got the more significant pullback from the top there in August down into October before you get that rally out. So are we getting prepared for this next stage of the move? Well, I hope so. We're looking at the Christmas in July, NASDAQ's 12-day mid-year rally. This happens right now, where we are now, in June into July, and then the July pullback. So it still covers the pullback. It's just slightly different times there where you have that run up. So let's be prepared for Q3 in the markets and a potential sideways move for the stock markets here. So Bitcoin, altcoins, what's strong? What are we doing now that there is a possibility of a bottom signal forming? And where do we get the first signs of confirmation that the bottom is forming? Let's have a look at some of the data that has come through in the last 24 hours. We have the ETF flows for Monday at the moment, June 24. I'm interested to see what they come out as for June 25. So far, we have negative 2.9 thousand. It doesn't scream anything substantial. However, it is the largest or equal largest. You got 2.9 there on June 14th as well. You got equal largest in the last 2 weeks, but that is one of the largest since that May 1st dump. So negative 9,700 Bitcoin ETFs left the market. So what we're trying to do here is look at how the ETF flows have, when the significant flows have occurred, whether that's out or in, and line that up with key turning points on the Bitcoin chart. So the Bitcoin price chart, you had the 14th. This turned out to be a pretty significant emotional time in the market around the fear just beginning to increase. And we can see that on the crypto fear and greed index as well. Come back to the 13th, 14th, 15th, you're starting to get those lower highs form. And it wasn't too long until you finally got the dump and potentially the reset of the market sentiment. So we hit 30, that's fear, didn't hit extreme fear, but we got a nice little orange fear as opposed to a golden fear here. Now, I don't know why they called it fear. That, to me, that's more neutral, but I think they know we've been talking about them and they needed to give us some sort of fear reading here. Now, we did see a significant low on Bitcoin on that day there, huge flows out, Bitcoin put in a low. We saw a top around here, 12.6 going in, 12,500 Bitcoin ETF flows in, and that was a lower top forming on the market, fourth highest ETF flow. And then we had the dump from that point. So this has been a fantastic tool to trade off of, but more so a contrarian look at the market. So don't take this as the only signal to use in your portfolios, but definitely a good one to keep an eye on, especially as we go into that next stage of the bull market. And your moon boys and your very bullish type channels that focus on a lot of this ETF flow, on-chain analysis, that sort of stuff, that try to hype up the market to say, look at how many people are buying, follow the money and all this sort of stuff. Well, follow the money. They all went out and the market bounced from that point. They all went in and the market dumped from that point. They all went in and the market fell from that point, so on and so forth. So it's not a signal, in my opinion, to be buying into the market when you see a lot of flows in. It's more so get the hell out of there because something is brewing. Speaking of brewing, we have a new July predictions video brewing on the channel. Make sure you hit the subscribe and the notification bell so you're notified when that is released. Bitcoin and the top, just a reminder, we've looked at this as being 4 to 6 months underneath the old all-time high based on the 3-day down signal that we found at the very top of the market. There's 3 days down, bang, bang, bang. That is lower highs, lower lows, not reds. Okay, so lower highs here, 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 lower lows here, here, and here, and the Gann swing indicator picks that up. I went through the numbers and it looked like we were going to be underneath that old all-time high, or at least in that zone, for a lot longer than the majority were expecting, because of course there was massive complacency, peak euphoria, 100K calls, 80K calls, just didn't seem like it. And the data showed that. So we're coming into that 4-month period now, being mid-July. So we've got about 2 weeks, 2.5 weeks to go until we get to that 4 months. And that just means underneath the old all-time high. 6 months, that takes us out to mid-September. So still a bit of time in that too, to get to a new all-time high. Where we currently sit is 62K, and I've got my safe zone in here for BTC. That's at $65,000. $65,000. So from this point, we need to see the price rally and close above 65K relatively quickly, because if it doesn't happen, then that just leaves the door open for another retest of 58 and then a retest of 56. And what the bears might love is then a retest of any of this zone below here. So low to mid 50s. So the 65K level is half of this entire range, and it's also half of this entire range. So we have a nice price cluster dead on $65,000. So that also lines up with the previous cycle. 65K was the April top, and then you had quite a few closes around that 65K. So the safe zone over the next couple of days for Bitcoin is to get closes above $65,000. Keep that one marked up. Yes, there are other levels here on the chart that we'll watch out, but that's going to be probably the strongest area of resistance, which if it can flip, will hopefully become support, and then we'll start to see that attack at the higher prices within our forecasted time of 4 to 6 months underneath the old all-time high. So for $58,500 to be the low, price needs to get above 65K relatively soon. In the meantime, you've got altcoins which were looking relatively strong. Some had been bouncing when Bitcoin was dumping. That's a pretty decent reversal signal there for many altcoins. Now, if you are trading them or you want to learn how to trade them, we've got a new free Ultimate Traders Accelerator. And a lot of our traders now are smashing some very, very significant gains here. If you do want to find out more about it, check out the link in the top of the video description. Sign up to the free crypto and economic report right here, and that'll give you access to get on board with the free UTA, Ultimate Traders Accelerator. And these guys have been doing pretty damn well. Nice 190% profits. Rich putting in a few gains there, 120%, 250, 300, 40%, 200%. So you can see that there is a lot of benefit to being in a community that is trading actively in these markets. Again, link is in the top of the video description. Check that out, and we'll see you over there. The first safe zone for Total 3 is above 640 billion. That's your 50% level right through the middle. Now we've got the next 50% level through the entire range. That's the low to the high. So you can see that's the current high, that's the current low. The 50% there is at 709 billion, which is where the market put in a small double top there. So a couple of numbers to mark up on your charts. 640 billion, then the 50% level at 674 billion, and then the major 50% level there at 709 billion, which is around those double tops. So bit by bit, if it can claw its way back, this would put it into that stealth zone, or it's still in the stealth zone as it claws its way back. And out of each of these stealth zones, the market has gone on to do very, very significant gains. You can see as it starts to break out all the way to the peaks, about 130%. But this is covering the entire Total 3, including stable coins as well. But the purpose I'm looking at this for is for the patterns that it forms through these stealth periods. And we're still in that stealth zone where the average true range is still dropping off. Yet, so far, the lows remain relatively stable. They remain around the same price. And I mean, over the last couple of days, you've seen many altcoins try to put in higher lows, and some are actually moving significantly higher. Let's take a look at some of those now. You've got Solana pushing, still got the day to get through, but it's pushing through that 50% level at 138, currently sitting at 139. The level you want to see this get to is right through the middle there, 154 as a confirmation there. Now, as we talked about in yesterday's video, if you are buying altcoins, buying it at these lows or when the market was extremely fearful, you're paying at times for more risk but higher reward. This could go against us because there isn't confirmation that it is able to break through the previous resistance or the previous support, which might become resistance. And those levels, as we looked at, are around 138. And it's tackling that at the moment. So it's going to depend on yourself personally as a trader. Are you willing to go into that higher risk and try to get these buy the dip opportunities and know that it could go against you? Or do you want to wait for the confirmation and pay a premium? So you've got different premiums that you're going to pay. You're going to pay up to $140 or maybe $154 to get that extra premium or that extra certainty that the trend is changing and it's getting above previous resistance. So for now, Solana's been looking relatively good, and you could see it also on the Sol BTC chart, having a nice bounce there. A big outside bar, a big up day, and we're currently into that next move in today's trading day. Ethereum USD had that bounce on Monday, and it's attempting to come back. It's at 3,400. It didn't go under 3,200, which is a good sign because that was the previous accumulation before the ETF breakout. Having a look at the shorter term 50% level from the low to the high, 3,600. Nice round numbers, previous resistance, previous support. That is going to be a nice confirmation that this could potentially be the low. So you're looking out for 3,600 for ETH USD. Now, ETH BTC is also looking okay at the moment. It's been one of the first times that it's put in higher lows for quite some time. Now, if you can get above 0.058, that's going to be some pretty significant confirmation that this has been a base forming against its BTC value. So keep a close eye on that if you want to keep it lower risk and go for the second highest market cap cryptocurrency. Now, let's get into some of the degenerate stuff, get into some memes. Pepe on the crash day put in a higher low. So Pepe USD put in a higher low when Bitcoin was falling at that point. And the following day, so yesterday on Tuesday, it broke out of those tops. And today it's even broken through the next high. This is what you want to see with a stronger altcoin. You want to see it continue to put in strength when the market was looking weak, or at least hold its ground in the face of uncertainty and further downside. So Pepe have been looking relatively good. Now, what is something that looks like, what's a weak looking coin here? Sorry to pick on Charles Hoskinson, but you can see that we had the low on the 18th, another low there on the 22nd. Monday, wow, a slightly higher low there, but overall it had been basically falling and falling and falling. Now, eventually these garbage coins are going to move. XRP, fantastic example of garbage which is moving. At the moment, it's really attempting to put in another low and then move higher. It's been putting in low after low after low. But if you want to get onto something that is going to be easier during the next phase of the cycle, because this will go up, but do you want something that's easier, that's going to go up a lot easier and doesn't have so much overhead resistance? Look at the baggage on this thing. It's got like 1,000 exes, like, you know, ex-girlfriends, and it's got to get through all of this garbage before it can take off and float in the sky. And I don't know where I'm going with this analogy, but you can get the idea that this thing has got a ton of resistance ahead of it, and sure, it could go up and it's going to eventually try to go up, but it's got a lot of work to do. Let's have a look at Casper. Now, this also has some work to do, but it has been showing stronger signs than some of the other cryptos which had been falling during this period. It broke out of this accumulation. It pushed and tested 50%. It came back and retested the accumulation zone again. So there's the accumulation, there was the breakout, the rejection at 50%, the test of the accumulation zone, and for now, it's been continuing up and testing the 50% again. So this is something that you do want to see on your alts. If they had been decimated over the last couple of months or last few months, that's the sort of thing that you want to see happening to them, that they're starting to shine again. They're starting to come out of their dark, depressive times. Now, I know that I could be here all day with you talking about analogies, talking about altcoins, but I'll spare you the time and I'll see you back here at the next video. Like and subscribe, and don't forget to check out the free Crypto and Economic Report that has our free UTA available, the Ultimate Traders Accelerator. See you at the next video. Until then, take care and peace out.